that the issues at hand were not merely individual failings but systemic problems that required a collective response. Marcus, a man who had navigated the complexities of life with grace and determination, now stood as a symbol of the struggle against prejudice. He had spent years overcoming obstacles that society had placed in his path, yet here he was, confronted by a police officer who saw him not as an accomplished individual but as a stereotype. The weight of that realization was heavy, not just for Marcus but for the entire community. He had earned his place as an FBI agent through hard work and dedication, yet the color of his skin had led to an assumption of guilt rather than an acknowledgement of his achievements. This incident was a microcosm of a larger societal issue, where individuals are often judged by their appearance rather than their character. It was a painful reminder that discrimination can seep into the very institutions meant to protect and serve. As Marcus stood there, calm and composed, he embodied a strength that was both inspiring and necessary. His ability to maintain his composure in such a tense situation was not just a personal victory. It was a lesson for all who witnessed it. He understood that fear could easily spiral into anger, but he chose instead to assert his rights with dignity. This was a powerful statement about the importance of self-awareness and the ability to navigate conflict without losing one's sense of self. The dialogue between Marcus and Captain Bennett became a crucial turning point. Bennett, recognizing the gravity of the situation, approached the conversation with empathy. He understood that it was not just about Marcus, but about the broader implications of how law enforcement interacted with the community. The tension in the air began to dissipate as they spoke, revealing a shared humanity that transcended their roles. Bennett's willingness to listen and reflect on the biases that had influenced the actions of Officer Harkins was a step toward healing. For Officer Brian Harkins, the encounter was a moment of reckoning. As he faced the consequences of his actions, he grappled with the realization that he had acted on assumptions rather than facts. The regret began to wash over him as he recognized the potential damage his decision could inflict, not just on Marcus, but on the trust between the police force and the community they served. The weight of his choices pressed heavily on his conscience, forcing him to confront the biases that had shaped his perceptions. During the review meeting that followed, Harkins felt the scrutiny of his peers. Every word he uttered was laden with the potential to define his future in law enforcement. He was no longer just an officer. He was a man facing the consequences of a decision that had been rooted in prejudice. The discomfort of that realization was profound, pushing him to reflect on the broader implications of his actions. The fear of losing his career was overshadowed by the understanding that his reputation was now intertwined with the very trust he had compromised. The investigation revealed a pattern of behavior that was troubling. Body camera footage and witness testimonies painted a clear picture of how the situation had escalated unnecessarily. Harkins's aggressive approach from the outset was a stark reminder of how bias could distort judgment and lead to poor decision-making. The witnesses, who had observed the incident unfold, echoed the same sentiment. The encounter had been marked by hostility rather than professionalism. Captain Bennett's insistence that good intentions do not excuse wrongdoing resonated deeply within the department. It underscored the necessity for officers to hold themselves accountable, not just to the law, but to the communities they vowed to protect. The impact of Harkins's actions rippled through the community, leading to a growing sense of distrust between citizens and law enforcement. This was a critical moment for the department, one that demanded introspection and a commitment to change. Marcus's experience highlighted the importance of being heard. In a system that often silenced marginalized voices, he stood firm, determined to assert his identity and demand respect. His attempts to explain who he was, to share the narrative of his life, had been met with dismissal. This lack of listening was emblematic of a larger issue within law enforcement, where assumptions often overshadowed reality. The failure to engage with individuals as complex human beings was a disservice not only to those individuals but to the entire community. The conversations that followed Marcus's arrest served as a catalyst for change within the police department. They prompted discussions about bias, accountability, and the need for a more nuanced understanding of the communities they served. The realization that systemic issues required systemic solutions became a rallying cry for reform. It was an acknowledgement that the path to building trust was not an easy one, but it was essential for fostering a safer, more equitable society. In the end, the incident involving Marcus Davis and Officer Brian Harkins was more than just a moment of conflict. It was an opportunity for growth and reflection. It illuminated the deep-seated issues of racism and bias that permeate law enforcement and society as a whole. The journey toward understanding and healing would require courage, humility, and a commitment to change. Marcus's calm strength in the face of adversity became a beacon of hope, reminding all involved that respect and dignity should be afforded to every individual, regardless of their appearance or background. The lessons learned from this encounter would echo throughout the department, shaping the future of law enforcement and its relationship with the community.